All right, today we're cracking open a case file on one of philosophy's heaviest hitters and maybe its most misunderstood idea.
We are going deep, folks. We're investigating what happens when we look for our place in the universe and find absolutely nothing looking back. This is Orphans of the Cosmos.
Okay, let's just jump right in with a question. For basically all of human history, when you looked up at the stars, you were looking at a kind of divine ceiling. You know, you saw order, a story, a feeling that we were the main characters.
Oh, for sure.
But now, we see giant balls of burning gas in a vast, silent, and, let's be honest, seemingly indifferent vacuum. The story, it's just gone.
And that right there, that's the central mystery we're digging into today. How did we lose that cosmic security blanket? How did we become, well, orphans of the cosmos?
It's a huge deal. You've called it a philosophical catastrophe, and honestly, that's not really an exaggeration. So let's start tracing the evidence and see where this whole thing leads.
Right. So to solve any case, you've got to start at the crime scene. And for us, we're calling this the case of the missing meaning, which means to really get what was lost, we have to look at the world before this crime even happened. We got to see what that certainty actually looked and felt like. And this was that world of certainty. It was called the Great Chain of Being. It was this universal hierarchy, right? You had God at the very top, then the angels, then humans, animals, plants, all the way down to rocks. Your place in the universe wasn't even a question. It was a given. Meaning was like literally built into the furniture of reality. Everything had a purpose, and you knew exactly what it was. So how on earth did this airtight worldview completely fall apart? Well, let's follow the trail of clues.
And, it's so important to remember this wasn't one single event. It was more like a slow erosion, a death by 1,000 cuts from centuries of really groundbreaking, world-shattering discoveries.
And this slide just lays out that unraveling perfectly. Let's walk through it. First, 1543, Copernicus comes along and says, hey, Earth isn't the center of everything. That's a massive blow to the human ego.
Huge.
Then, fast forward to the 17th century, the universe stops being seen as this divine, magical thing and becomes more like a giant clock, a machine. And the question changes from, why are we here, to, how does this thing work? And then, bam, 1859, Darwin delivers the final nail in the coffin. All of a sudden, we aren't these specially created beings. We're just another branch on the tree of life, a product of blind, totally accidental processes.
Which brings us to the philosopher who famously just summed it all up, Friedrich Nietzsche.
Right. And when he said God is dead, he wasn't celebrating. So many people get that wrong. He was sounding an alarm. He saw that science and logic had killed the very idea that gave all of society its moral compass.
Exactly. The foundation was gone, and he was genuinely terrified of what we would build in its place.
And what ended up growing in that empty space is the subject of our main dossier today, existential nihilism.
Yeah, the word nihil literally means nothing, so this is, for all intents and purposes, the ideology of nothing. Let's open the file and see what we've got.
Okay, so, at its core, what are we really talking about here? Well, existential nihilism basically argues that there is no cosmic script written for us, no higher purpose we're meant to fulfill. Exactly. No objective out there value to anything. We are born into a universe that is completely, and I mean 100%, indifferent to whether we live or die.
So the first piece of evidence in this dossier is a tough pill to swallow. Cosmic insignificance. Our entire planet is just a tiny speck of dust in one galaxy, among billions of other galaxies.
And that's in a universe that's 93 billion light years across. The scale is just, it's mathematically crushing. It's almost impossible to actually wrap your head around it.
And hey, if you think our place in space is small, just wait till we look at our place in time. This is probably my favorite analogy for this.
Okay, hit me with it.
If you compressed the entire history of the universe into a single calendar year, all of human history, everything from the pyramids to the internet, all of it is just the last few seconds before midnight on New Year's Eve.
Wow. Okay, that really puts things into perspective. That's a mind bender.
Okay, so now let's turn the magnifying glass inward, on ourselves. Because science doesn't just reframe the cosmos, it completely reframes our inner world too.
Totally. Neuroscience basically suggests that our most profound feelings, love, hope, consciousness itself, are really just complex biochemical cocktails. They're survival tools designed by evolution to help us pass on our genes, not some kind of message from a higher spiritual plane.
Which brings us to a really crucial point. If meaning isn't out there waiting for us in the universe, then
Where is it?
Well, the nihilist's answer is that we make it ourselves. And I love the analogy on this slide. Think of the universe as a totally blank movie screen. There's nothing on it.
And we are the projector. We're the ones casting our own stories, our own values, our own meaning onto that blank screen. The whole movie is generated from inside our own head. And the final piece of evidence in the dossier is this argument from oblivion. The sandcastle metaphor here is just perfect for it.
It really is. I mean, what's the ultimate point of any achievement or building an empire or creating a masterpiece if the cosmic tide of entropy and the heat death of the universe is guaranteed to eventually just wash it all away?
In the longest of long runs, the nihilist argues, nothing we do makes any permanent difference at all. Okay, so let's just recap this whole dossier. As you can see right here in this table, the traditional view gave us a divine origin, a super clear purpose, objective morality, and an eternal future. And the nihilistic view, which is pretty grounded in scientific materialism, gives us an accidental origin, no built-in purpose, subjective morality, and, eventual extinction. It's about as stark a contrast as you can possibly get. Now, when you're faced with a table like that, it is really, really easy to misunderstand this entire philosophy as just being depressing or destructive.
Which is exactly why we need to clear up a few cases of mistaken identity. Let's talk about what nihilism is not.
Okay, first one up, nihilism is not the same thing as pessimism. It isn't about actively looking for despair. It's about trying to accept what science seems to be telling us about reality. Right, and it's not cynicism either. Being cynical is about assuming the worst in people. Nihilism questions the purpose of the cosmos. That's a totally different target. And finally, and this one is so important, it is not apathy. Just because you acknowledge a lack of cosmic purpose doesn't mean you suddenly stop feeling love or ambition or empathy for others. You're still human. Your biology doesn't just turn off like a switch. Okay, so we've examined the crime scene, we've followed the clues, we've stared into the abyss. And the verdict is probably not what you're thinking. A lot of people see all this as a huge tragedy, but what if? What if it's the most liberating conclusion of all time? What if we can find freedom in the abyss? And this brings us to our first possible verdict, what we're calling the opportunist viewpoint. Look, if there's no pre-written meaning, that means there is no cosmic script you're forced to follow.
There's no cosmic judge grading your every move. You aren't chained to some destiny that was written for you before you were even born. You are completely, 100% free.
The universe didn't give you a rulebook. It handed you a blank canvas. Okay, I absolutely love this second perspective, the humanist viewpoint. The metaphor here is just so powerful.
It really is. Just picture all of us as travelers huddled around one single campfire in this dark, endless forest. That forest, that's the cold, indifferent universe. And the terrifying truth is that no one is coming to save us. We are all on our own. But that very fact makes our little campfire, our connection to each other, the single most important thing in the entire universe.
So the indifference of the cosmos isn't a reason to despair.
It's the single strongest argument for human kindness and for sticking together. Because the universe doesn't care. We have to. We are literally all we've got.
In this last viewpoint, the scientist's view, this might be the most radical reframing of the whole thing. We tend to think of ourselves as something separate from the universe. Like we're just trapped inside it.
But we're not. We are of the universe. We are literally made of stardust. And think about this. For 13.8 billion years, the cosmos was basically blind and unaware of itself.
Then, through us, it opened its eyes. Human consciousness isn't insignificant.
It's the universe's own way of finally becoming aware of itself. We are the cosmos made conscious.
So, the most important point is this. The case of the missing meaning was never really a tragedy. It was an invitation.
An invitation to create, to connect, to feel, and to experience. The supposed nothingness of nihilism can be the foundation for absolutely everything.
So we'll just leave you with a question that's on the screen. The universe gave you a blank canvas. What will you paint?